So I finally got my hands on Crisis Zone, which is, this was one of the most anticipated books, graphic novels I think I had for this year. Simon Hanselmann, I've talked about in a few other videos about how wonderful his comics are. This is the sixth books in the series of books that he's put out featuring these characters: Meg, Mog, Werewolf Jones, Al, others. First off, let me just say that this is a very thick book, like almost 300 pages, and all this has been done since coronavirus, which is amazing because the guy is just a workhorse. He's, it's incredible that he did so much so quickly. This is mainly March to December 2020, I want to say he did this. And he released it initially on Instagram in a sort of a truncated form, and this is much more thicker edition with copious endnotes and a lot of bonuses, paintings, and so on. So it's a wonderful book, beautiful book. You saw the book before this. I think it was called Seeds and Stems, or Stems and Seeds, something like that. It was a much smaller book. This is 12 panel pages for the most part, and very large, oversized edition. So this is an incredible piece of work. But I want to say though that this is very different from that book, which is, and a lot of his books, which are largely just short stories. This is one overarching narrative. I think this is the longest single story that he's done. I mean, like 280 pages or something of one story. That's unprecedented in the Hanselmann canon. Let me talk a bit about continuity, because one of the characters, Werewolf Jones, is in this book. And if you've read the other books, I'm not going to explain why, but Werewolf Jones, who is a great character, one of the great characters of literature, let's just say he left the storyline for reasons that I won't go into, and it didn't seem like that he would be back in the storyline, but he's here in this book, and there's actually a lot of endnotes. I mean, like a lot of endnotes. Look at this, there's like 20 pages of like tiny endnotes that I didn't read all. I kind of skimmed, but he kind of talks about how this is maybe an alternate continuity or something. I don't know, but it doesn't really matter. It's kind of like, Shakespeare brought back Falstaff for Merry Wives of Windsor after he died. So you can bring a character back if you want to use him. And I think, these characters, especially the contrast between Al and Werewolf Jones, that's one of the great dynamics in fiction. So to not have Werewolf Jones in this would have just been strange. So you can't remove a character like that from continuity. It just doesn't happen. So I guess he really began this as a way to comment on coronavirus in real time, and it is a wonderful document of 2020. I think it's probably the best document of 2020 that I've encountered. That you realize you've forgotten so much about the early days of coronavirus that I don't know if you want to remember, but this book will stir up memories, but also just about the internet, how it changed and how everybody went online and became a self-righteous expert on everything. This is a very funny book, like all of his books, and there were some pages when I was laughing, like every page at least once or two times. I will say though that near the end, I don't know, it just felt like almost too much in some ways. Like I love the book, and I could see myself reading this whole series of books again. It's just like, I feel like by the end it could have ended earlier maybe, or I'm recommending the book definitely, but I think I was enjoying it more in the beginning, and then it just went on too long. But also that feeling was kind of good, because I think it was kind of showing what the characters were experiencing at that point. There's a lot about social media, a lot about cancel culture, social media, very wry commentary, and beautiful art. Very, it's just incredible how quickly he works. I don't know if he's using colored pencil or what this is. I've seen him do coloring before, and I think it's maybe colored pencil. There's several celebrity guest appearances in this book, including Carrot Top. I'm curious if they're aware of this. I'm guessing that they are not, and didn't necessarily approve it, which is fascinating. I would love to see this adapted to a movie. I think it's maybe like an animated movie or even a live action. I don't know, whatever. But in some ways, though, like it seems almost too much for a movie. Like it crossed too many lines. It'd have to be at least NC-17. So I don't think it'll ever happen. But who knows? A lot of characters who appeared in earlier books by Hanselmann show up again here, and he really kind of draws them out and makes them a little more like central characters, which is interesting because I think that's something you have to do if you take Werewolf Jones out of the equation, because he's such a vibrant character. I'm curious where he's going to go from here. I heard there's another book coming, or that he's working on or was working on, called Meg's Coven in Stems and Seeds, or Seeds and Stem, whatever it's called. There's a story in there, a science fiction story that's like a book within the book. And I thought that was very fascinating, something that he hadn't done, because all the other stories I've read by Hanselmann are featuring this same group of stoner characters, and it's kind of, they're wonderful characters. I mean, they're some of the most differentiated characters, and their voices feel so real and unique and not cookie cutter at all. Like, so I see why he likes these characters and why he keeps going with them. But at the same time, I'd be like fascinated to see him do another group of characters, another storyline, something totally different like that science fiction story, just maybe, longer, 100 pages or 200 pages or whatever. That'd be fascinating. So I did like the book. It is a wonderful commentary on the nature of modern celebrity and modern social media. Yeah, because he was working on this in real time. It's so, it just feels so fresh and accurate for this moment. And, looking back on this in 10, 20 years, how this is just going to be such a perfect document. This is like our journal of the plague year for 2020. And it's, it's pure energy and rock and roll, but it's, like I said, it did feel a little too much at times, like it went on a little too long, but I still love it, and I still admire this guy, his books a lot. And is this a good place to start? I think it could be. It's very self-contained, and the first book I read by Hanselmann was Bad Gateway, which in the end of this book there's a description of all his other books. Yeah, it's here, and he describes Bad Gateway as the serious book, the story that only has like 4 jokes in the entire book. And that was the book that really got me into this, and I thought it was funny. It's been a while since I read that, but that is, I think, the other long story that he's done that is remarkable. And this is more flippant. He's clearly using a different style in this book, and I like Bad Gateway a lot. But where do you begin with Hanselmann? I guess you can begin with Mega Hex, the first book, but you can read them in any order. They're all pretty self-contained, and this book has, in the beginning anyways, a character introduction like old superhero comics or something, where each of the characters gets a little intro, including you, godlike reader, or whatever, godlike observer. There we go. This book was everything I hoped for in a lot of ways, but in some ways too much of what I hoped for. Like it was a little too much of every character, but so many fascinating moments and weird twists and turns. I haven't read all the endnotes, so I don't know exactly how he plotted this and narrated this in real time, but it felt like he had certain things that he wanted to include, but the ending just felt like it just felt like I've done this long enough and I'm going to end it, and here we are, and that's just where it happened to end. But it didn't feel like an ending proper in some ways, but maybe that's to get you into the next book, who knows. It's a Crisis Zone, Simon Hanselmann, 2020's book of 2020 Chronicles. Go read it.